Good evening. Welcome to episode 2 of The Art of Money. I want to start off by talking about some of my favorite money news this week. The first of which is power to the people. Because of everybody's expressing how they feel to the city of Seattle pulled a crap ton of money out of Wells Fargo because Wells Fargo has been supporting the Dakota Access Pipeline. And that happened solely because people like you and me picked up the phone, got out their email. Email's not as effective as the phone, but picked up the phone and called and told them to please get out of Wells Fargo. They voted with their dollars, and it was a few $billion. I don't have the exact number. Someone will throw it up, but it was substantial. It's going to hurt Wells Fargo. And that's the power that we have. You guys did that. You can do it. When the electoral college falls apart, when people are doing things you disagree with, you can express yourself in a whole bunch of different ways. And so for those of you who support that, well done. Well done. Second piece of money news, it's actually internet news. Back in 2015, there's this whole concept of net neutrality. Long story short, when net neutrality is where we need it to be, everybody has equal access to the internet. When it's not, you have to have money to have good internet, which means that poor areas in our country, the kids in school there will not have decent internet for their projects. People starting a business who don't have a bunch of cash are going to have crappy internet and automatically be at a competitive disadvantage. We beat that back in 2015, again, by people like you and me just picking up the phone, calling, making their voices heard. And now the new administration's head of the FCC is making it his first order of business to reverse what we accomplished in 2015. Your internet is in jeopardy. If you care about the internet and having it the way you want, pick up the phone, call the FCC. I tweeted it yesterday. I tweeted the contact information in the article. I'll throw it out again tomorrow on Twitter. @JHaleTweets is my Twitter handle. So we are going to start this evening talking with Simon, or maybe Simon. I don't know, because I haven't spoken with Simon yet. So bear with me while I get out my phone here and do a little dialing. Go. I'm still here. I'm being quiet because I'm dialing. All right, let's see. Simon is home.
Hello?
Hi, is this Simon?
Yes, hi Jennifer.
How are you?
Good. You?
Doing very, very well, thank you. So welcome to The Art of Money.
Yeah, thank you for doing the show also. I wanted to thank you. I've loved the first episode you did.
Oh, I'm so glad. Well, now's a perfect time for me to throw out my disclaimer. I am not a financial professional. I am not giving expert advice, so-called. What I am doing is sharing my life experience. So hopefully I can save you guys a step or two and help you connect to what matters to you and shortcut the ways that you maybe get in your own way. So yeah, Simon, you sent a great question. Do you want me to read it, or do you want to ask it again?
I'll tell it to everyone who's listening right now. In a society where too many are put down over their own power to change the world, where politicians infantilize their citizens as ignorant children, and where some refuse to volunteer unless they're paid, or instead claim that others' businesses aren't theirs, what arguments would you use to explain and convince non-volunteers about the importance to help others for free?
I would break it down to 2 words. I would break it down to personal responsibility. When I do something that, appears altruistic or appears quite helpful, it's in large part because that's the world I want to live in. And so it's up to me to make it that kind of world. And the other piece of it is you matter. So when you don't show up, it matters that you didn't show up. And somewhere that is felt on a major level. And as far as politicians and people infantilizing, they do what we allow them to do. And there's been a lot of apathy for a long time, and people feel ineffective. But I'm telling you, my new morning routine is to, I meet my personal obligations in the morning. And then the very first thing I do when I'm back in my car is I pick up the phone. My new routine is I call both my senators and I call my congressional representatives. I have their
Hmm.
numbers stuck in my phone and I tell them what I do and don't like today. And you bet I was up their noses today about net neutrality, um, because it's on us. And can you imagine if everyone in the world was that vocal with their politicians? Because the fact is they work for you. You
Hmm.
pay their salary, so act like it. Ask for what you want. And this is something that's very relevant to where we are politically in the world today. And I know politics, some people are groaning and rolling their eyes, but unfortunately, government and politics are so deeply intertwined, and government runs a lot of what we say and do that we have to either speak up or get run over. Um, Let me find my point. I lost my point for a second. It was about speaking up. It was about mattering. Give me a second. What did I say right before that? Where was I? Oh, well, I'll find it. Anyway, we need to speak up. You matter. Your voice matters. And if you don't use it, then it's on you. It's on you that
Yeah,
you
I
didn't use
agree.
it. You know, it's time. And we infantilize ourselves by not getting involved. We act like children and want someone else to do it for us because we just don't feel like it, because it feels
Yeah.
overwhelming and we're not sure how. And you know what? You just figure it out one step at a time. And this was my point that I was getting to. With what's going on in the world today, there's a lot of anger about what people don't like. Therefore, there's a lot of conversation about what people don't like. And that's an awful lot of energy being put into the people and procedures that we don't like. If I may throw out a new possibility, which is to see what's happening, take note of it, take a deep breath, calm down, and decide what you do want, and put
Hmm.
far more energy into making that happen than you do into being upset about what you don't want happening. And that's the
Yeah.
fastest way to bring to life what we actually do want.
Hmm. I've been doing stuff like that online. I've been participating in online causes, sometimes signing petitions, writing to ministers, for instance, our local representative in our community. I've been involved so much in my life since 2002, when I was 17, participating in various causes where I could help either the environment or the local politics that were going on in our country.
That's great. That's wonderful. There's something about volunteering back in, oh gosh, it's been 10 years ago. I was working on a cartoon with a big giant pop star, or, just musical star. He was incredible. And we had a bunch of singing sessions booked to go along with the cartoon. And being the big giant star that he was, he got busy last minute and I suddenly had 2 weeks free. And that never happens on my calendar. I had 2 weeks free and I'd just gotten back from New Zealand. And I had everything in the world that I needed. I was making plenty of money working in an incredible field and I was very depressed for no reason. But fortunately, I knew enough to say, okay, there's no actual reason I'm depressed. This doesn't have any content. It's just the context of being depressed. I thought, what's my antidote? And I remembered a time, several years earlier when I was going through something very difficult and I was feeling very, very down. And the thing that turned me around on that day was going down and washing dishes and volunteering at a thing called Project Angel Food. I washed dishes for 3.5 hours and I left there feeling like the king of the world. And I
Oh, that's
don't know why.
wonderful.
And so in 2006, 7, when I had that break and I was feeling blue, I thought, you know what? It's time to get out there and volunteer again. And I went online and found a volunteer vacation, ended up in Thailand. And let me tell you, I don't know how many people are familiar with scurvy. It was an illness way back in the day of sailing ships and exploring. And people died from it. And all it was a severe lack of vitamin C, basically. They needed a lime, and a
Hmm.
lime saved their life. And I
That's,
believe that in the Western world, we're suffering from our own form of scurvy. And the lime that we need is to volunteer, because I know it sounds cheesy, but you won't know it till you go do it. You get so much more than you give when you go volunteer. You get you get it in your body and in your bones. Your life is
yeah,
not
I
about
agree.
you anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I've been doing, when I was little, we had two neighbors, Mrs. Grace Baines and Mrs. Mary Duncan. They were two older people who were living all alone because their husband passed away, one because of brain cancer, the other of another disease. I forget what's the name of it. But every day or every week we came to see them. We took care of their grass. We took care of their snow plowing on their driveway. And we even spent time speaking with them, hanging around, talking about them, about their lives, their culture. And for instance, for me, I'm a Francophone. I learned English when I was back in 1994, 1995. I was 8 or 9 years old. And through these neighbors, I was able to practice my English, learn to communicate. And in Quebec, there is, unfortunately, and it still is present, a strong linguistic barrier between the Francophones and the Anglophones. And having these dialogues between the two of us, it was wonderful because it was a proof that those barriers that we put in our society, they're ridiculous. So for me, it was a great opportunity to create a bond and create a friendship also.
Well, and I think there's a wonderful video that I've tweeted a few times by a woman named Amaryllis Fox. It's about 3 minutes long, and she was a CIA counterintelligence officer. And she talks about debriefing members of terrorist groups. And, first of all, when they talk about why they do what they do, they reference U.S. pop culture. And they say, we watch your movies and we consider ourselves to be, like Han Solo and Luke, the little guys fighting the big evil empire. And you, the West, are the big evil empire. And she said when she had the courage to dig a little deeper, you find out that we're all the same. We want the same things ultimately. And that's where we need to start, is in the connection. What's going on right now in the world is very much a battle between disconnection and connection. And if you have the courage to connect, even with those who want to disconnect, that's where we find our common ground and begin to make this all better. Yeah.
I don't know if you've read this book. It's J.K. Rowling. She wrote it and published it in 2012. It's The Casual Vacancy. No. And she deals with the concept of responsibility within our community, the barriers between society, the perspective one has of one another, how they see others, how they treat their own problems, how we think they treat their stuff the way they do because, they either have their personal circumstances or because, in the cases of certain characters, we think they are lazy, don't want to get out. It's a great study of character study of several character interactions and perspective of society. And she really did a powerful piece in it. And I know most people who read it, they only wanted to see Harry Potter and they didn't get Harry Potter. And so they bashed it. But when you read the book, it's a great story about the sense of responsibility with ourselves, with our family, and with our community.
That's fascinating. What's the name of it again?
It's The Casual Vacancy.
Okay, good to know. Simon, thank you so much. Are there any other money questions we want to touch on before I move on to our next caller?
No, but I do have something to say. I tweeted to you yesterday a book I was finding out at the library I was working on, the Magic School Bus on global warming and pollution.
Yes.
And it's something I was thinking about because ever since Donald Trump came to power, he pulled off all references on his website regarding global warming, gay rights, and women's rights. And what I thought about is that if his administration is pulling up important stuff for the United States and the rest of the world, then I think libraries have a responsibility to share their own knowledge and documentation to their community and to others who might visit their buildings. So I thought, if there are any librarians listening to me, what it would be nice if libraries could display on specific stands in their sections, either books on the environment, books on LGBT rights, and books on women rights, and ask their viewers to send the words and pass it out to each other.
Yes, that's a great point, Simon. And this actually circles back around to the beginning of our call also, which is the concept of personal responsibility. We can turn a lot of this around by ourselves being the keepers and not infantilizing ourselves and saying, well, someone else is going to do it. No, it's our world. It's on us. We got to step up and own it. And I think that's going to be the gift of all this conflict, is we're all going to we have an opportunity to step into our own power and own what matters to us. And again, turn our attention. When you get mad, okay, why am I mad? Because this is going away. All right, so what do I want in its place? I'm going to see that. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to see it. I'm going to do whatever I can to make it happen. I'm going to see it over and over, because what you see comes to pass. So see what you
Yes.
want, not what you don't. Thank you so much, Simon. Have a wonderful, wonderful
Yes.
evening.
Thank you for calling me, and thank you
Okay.
for doing your show. It's so wonderful.
Oh, you bet. It's my honor. Thank you.
Hmm.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice week.
You
Bye.
too. Bye-bye. Oh, man. I have lovely, lovely people out there. I'm very, very blessed to be able to talk to you guys. The next caller is actually, it's going to be me reading an email from just one of my favorite people out there, Karume Deco. Karume, shout out. Woo! He sent me, he and I bumped into each other at a signing a while back, and he sent me a question based on a conversation he and I had, which is about investing in property. You may or may not know, um, when I was a kid, my dad used to call me the little capitalist piglet, because I was always trying to figure out how to make money, because I saw very early on that money was security. I don't care about stuff. I care about security, safety, and I think when I was about 4, I decided I wanted to make a ton of money so that I could buy all the land in the world and get all the stray animals and put them on it so they'd have a place to live. I was 4. It really mattered a lot, and honestly, it still does. And as I grew older, I studied real estate, and real estate was something that made sense to me. And I think that's something I invite all of you to do. It might feel, I don't know, whatever, uncomfortable, weird, uncool, foreign to start to look at money, but it's incredibly important. And if you don't, you're choosing to remain a child in a really important aspect of your life. And also to pass up a whole bunch of really fun, cool opportunities to create things for yourself. I find money incredibly creative. I tried stocks and all that, and it was so not my movie. I never really, just didn't click for me. But the minute I got connected to real estate, that was my happy place. When I was a kid, I used to sit around and draw my future house. It was always my bathroom, which was always out of control, had deer in it and weird stuff like that, forests and stuff. Yeah, TMI. Anyway, um, so I began reading about real estate back in 2000. The first book I read on that was Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is sort of a great introductory conversation to the whole thing. And when I saved up, I saved for 16 years before I bought my first house. And I bought it and I fixed it up. But when you buy a house and fix it up, there's a couple things to keep an eye on. Number one, you don't ever put any more money into it than you could sell it for at a decent price. And that decent price has to be what are called comps, comparable sales in the neighborhood. They're called comps for short. So if I see a house, let's say I can pick it up for $70,000 and everything else in the neighborhood costs $100,000, my maximum I can spend on that house is $30,000. And if I want to make a profit, it's even less than that. But what I did with my first house is I bought it, fixed it up, lived in it, sold it, took the profit, bought a bigger house, fixed it up, lived in it, sold it, took the profit, and then it was 2006. And I could see what was coming in the market, just like what I see right now. There is major disasters coming. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And I sat on the money for 2 years. And then I went shopping in the sale and bought a couple foreclosures. And I bought a house to live in that was not what my peers had. It wasn't fancy. It was a little bungalow. And I drove a car that wasn't all that fancy. It was a great little car. Because I know my long-term plan. And we were able to turn that house after we lived in it. We sold it, bought another one, took the profits from that house and bought an apartment building in a small market in the US that's now paying 3 times a month what the house was in cash flow. And you just keep building. And I got that done. And that took 16 years to get to that point. Don't freak out, because let me tell you, that 16 years is coming whether you do something or not. So you might as well do something. Just like that 90 days that you could have been working out came and went and you didn't. And one of the tools I recommend for getting through this is reading 10 pages a day of a good book. There's a great book called The Slight Edge by a guy named Jeff Olson. He recommends doing that. And I think it's brilliant. Because, in a year, you're reading a lot of pages, 3,600 pages of good books, and you know a lot more. And if you just read like 10 pages a day of something, just pick something, and if I might add, make half of what you read something about personal development, because your bucket can only fill up as big as you are. And if you're standing in your own way, you're not going to grow. So going back to Karume's question, he's asking what are some good reasons why one would, should, could make the leap to investing in property, whether it's empty land or a place to build something, kind of like using money as energy or a tool. Money is energy. Money is simply representative of a number of things. I've been thinking about money lately as kind of like a table, and it has 4 legs. One of those legs, see if I can remember them all now on the spot. One of those legs is information. Like, you don't know it, it can't help you. So learn, get some information. Another one of those legs is routines. What are your routines around money? Do you even pay attention to it? If you're not in the habit or haven't developed the routine of paying attention to it, you're not going to get very far. And another piece is your being. Who are you being around money? Who are you being in your life? Are you being a grown up? And look, let me tell you, being a grown up doesn't mean you're not a kid. It means you've added grown up to your repertoire. You haven't taken kid away. You added grown up to it. So kid gets to do a lot more, trust me. And then the 4th leg is a plan. And make that plan long term. There's a great documentary that just came out on Warren Buffett. That man plays the long game like nobody else. And it's a really great documentary. It's actually crazy uplifting. I found it really uplifting. It's just a lot of hope in there, a lot of beautiful stuff. I recommend it. I think it's maybe HBO. I can't remember. Anyway, so property. Let me tell you a little tidbit about taxes, because you can't look at your wealth just in terms of what you're making on an investment. You have to evaluate investments also in terms of their tax effect. Earned income, i.e., what you make at your job, is taxed at the highest rate. Passive income, that is, income you get from your investments, is taxed a lot lower. And I have a feeling in this administration it's about to be taxed even lower, which, I'm actually not all that happy about. I'd rather pay a little bit more and have it be a much better world to live in. That's just how I roll. So, for example, let's say you're in the 28, 35% tax bracket, and you save up your money and you get yourself a little rental house, or you buy a house and you get a bunch of roommates and you rent out those rooms. So you're living there pretty much for free and saving your money for your next house. Start small. The profits that you make off of real estate are taxed, 15 to 20%, depending on how you run it. So you're automatically, quote unquote, making more money because your taxes are lower, if that's making sense. It's hard not to be able to draw this stuff, but number one, I'm a terrible artist, and number two, we're audio only. So there's a lot of advantages. Also, you can become your own boss in a field that has what they call inelastic demand. And this is kind of important. For those of you who like business and want to make money and kind of want to be your own boss, I recommend getting into a business with inelastic demand. There's 2 kinds of demand. The economies run on supply and demand. Business runs on supply and demand. Buying stuff runs on supply and demand, right? Elastic demand is stuff like cup of coffee, going out with your friends, going to a concert or something like that. That's elastic demand, which means if things get tough, you're not doing those things. Toilet paper, food, toothpaste, a place to live. That's inelastic demand. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You gotta have those. You've got to have those. That's why I like real estate, and that's why I like apartment buildings. That's where I invest, is in apartment buildings that aren't fancy, because they're what I call, very affectionately, the toilet paper of real estate. Because you don't want to live without it. Getting kind of ugly. So, so that's where I put my money. All right. I hope that, let's see, let me think of other books. A couple books in this, if you're interested. Robert Kiyosaki, as I said, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There's also an app that used to be out for iPad. I think you can play the game online as well. It's called Cashflow 101. On the App Store, it's Rich Dad Powered by Clutch app. It's called Cashflow. Another book is Dave Lindahl, Lindahl, Multifamily Millions. His system is really great. It's very actionable. I love it. I've used it. Recommend it highly. Another one is emerging markets, which is great. Like I live in a really giant city where I will not buy because the cost of getting in is so expensive. But I've identified a couple of markets around the country that work for me, and I'm investing there. So it's a lot of information. I hope that's not too much of a load. All right, I'm going to move on to my next caller. So bear with me while I search. I'm searching the iPhone. I'm like multitasking like mad here. Next up, I'm going to call Michael. Michael. There you are, Michael. Let me find you. Thank you. Oh, here we go. All right. I got a phone number I can dial. We're kind of international. It's exciting. So I never know if I'm going to be able to dial someone or not. Here's the number. I won't say your number out loud on the air, Michael. That'd be bad. I almost said that loud. That'd be kind of bad. Privacy? What privacy? All right, here we go. We're dialing. Thank you, Scott.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
Oh my God, I love that.
3
Michael,
6
where are
0
you?
9 3 1 2 6
Oh no!
0
Oh, we got to cut that
9.
out. We're gonna cut that out because oh shoot, I just broadcast his number. I hate when that happens. All right. Well, let me see what his questions are. Investing in companies that do voiceover work. You know what? This goes back to what I was just talking about elastic demand and inelastic demand. I've never gone into what I call content creation, which is like making shows and making games and making movies and stuff, even though I absolutely love it because I'm very, very practical and security oriented in my money. And I want something that's going to pay me back. And entertainment and things like that have very, very inelastic demand. And so you're kind of at risk for losing your money, which is just not my favorite thing. Now, the second part of the question was, how would you advise investing in voiceover work? That goes back to what I was saying a few minutes ago about, honestly, it's the way to build anything, which is, 10 pages a day, 15, 20, 30 minutes a day. That's how you build anything. So if voiceover work is something that you're really interested in, listen to some of these incredible podcasts out there, like Rob Paulson's amazing Talking Tunes. Yuri Lowenthal and John Roche have an incredible podcast as well. Just search, voice actors in podcasts and start to listen to how people do what they do. There's also a phenomenal website that D. Bradley Baker, genius and astonishingly wonderful human being who I just adore. Anyone who's ever met D adores D. That's just the fact. He did an incredible website, just the most generous thing in the world, called iwanttobeavoiceactor.com. Go through that thing from beginning to end because it's a treasure trove of free information. And I know how I got going in VO work. So my model is pretty much what I described. I found a mentor, and they, listened to my tape over and over back when they were tapes. Yes, tapes. And I took their advice and I did what they said. And I used to cold call ad agencies door to door with my demo reel. I made a schedule and made myself stick to it. It was nauseating and mortifying, and I did it. And I built a business. And so that was how I began. And another thing I would recommend is every day you want to work out every day. You want to pick up something, like go online and just go to some news site and read out loud the first thing you see. First few times you do it, read it over once real quickly and then read it, and then practice just reading it out loud with never having read it before and make it make sense. Get a couple of kids' books and practice reading the different voices for the different characters and listen back to it. Record it on a voice memo and listen back to it. Make sure it makes sense. I'm gonna try one more time. See if I can get a hold of Michael. See if Michael has.
Your call has been forwarded.
Okay, I'm not going to broadcast that number again. That was embarrassing. All right, let me go to my next question, which is from Matthew. Let me look it up here. There we go, Matthew. All right. Oh, gosh. Okay, it's overseas. I don't know if I can get this done because I'm not so good at this, but I'm going to give it a try. All right, how do I get the plus sign? Does anybody know how to get the plus sign here? Oh, I got it. I got the plus. Oh, I'm getting good at this. This is really hard to be dyslexic. All right, everybody, root for me. Root for me that this is going to work. Matthew, I'm trying. It's ringing. Are you so excited? Are you home, Matthew? Can we talk?
Who's speaking?
Matthew. Is this Matthew?
Hi.
Hi, it's
Yes,
Jennifer
it is.
Hale. You are on The Art of Money. How are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm very good. Thanks for your call.
Thanks for your question. Thanks for your question. Why don't you
No worries at all.
share your question with everybody and we will discuss.
Sure. So my question was, after expenses, what's a sort of a good percentage to be saving than to leave the rest for like everyday spending? Like at the moment, got this little app on my phone that sort of it calculates your expenses, does all that sort of thing, and then you choose how much of the remaining money you want to put away for savings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And at the moment, I've got like 40%. It seems to be pretty good. I know it's going to be different for individuals, obviously, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
40% is pretty kick-ass.
Yeah.
Good on you for that. And I have to warn you, I live with a Kiwi, so I'm going to automatically start falling into the Southern Hemisphere ways of speaking. For people who aren't in the position you're in yet, who are just beginning and starting to take this on, aim for 10%. Okay, and then tweak it up to 15%. But the real answer to this goes back to what's your plan and what do you want? What goals have you set for yourself, Matthew?
So actually, one of my plans, like I'm in Australia right now, one of my huge plans is to
really?
Get myself. Yeah, I know, shocking. One of my big plans is actually to get a green card and look for. This is going to sound silly, but I'm actually an aspiring voice actor like yourself.
Hey, nothing silly about that. There's VA down there as well, though. I mean, there's a lot of game companies. I know. Where in Oz are you?
I'm in like Sydney area.
Okay, because I know I've got people in Brizzy, and I know there's shout out to Sethy Bear wherever you are, and Kenny Badger. I know there's a lot of game action in Brisbane as well, and I'm sure there is in Sydney. So start in your backyard.
There is opportunities. Yeah, I'm trying to find an agent that's good with voice stuff. Like I've got agents with other things, but yeah, like LA is obviously the big.
It is.
Voice
it is.
acting
You may want to give
capital,
America time to get its senses back because it's sort of in places has lost its mind. But we're working it out. We'll work it out. We will prevail.
Exactly right.
Yeah, we're working on it. I mean, I tell you.
So yeah, I'm sort of just trying to put as much money aside because obviously to get a green card and things like that, you need lots of like backup savings for them to even give you a second glance.
Let me
so
see.
That's really the main goal.
Well, okay, that's a good goal. So keep that. So what I would do, here's the formula. You want to find out, okay, living in LA, you want to calculate your living expenses. And so you come at this from a couple different angles. Number one, I would calculate a minimum of 15 months of living expenses if in LA, get that put away in the bank and don't touch it. Okay?
Sure.
At the same time, I would get in some classes that you can do online. I know there's got to be online VO classes with people who are working in the industry. There's some wonderful people out there teaching. There's Debbie Derryberry. There's, I think Rob even teaches. There's, I don't want to name names because there's so many wonderful people teaching.
Sure.
So do some professional development at the same time. Also, I want you to start listening for the people whose job you want to take and work on your demo reel and your skills until you are as good as they are and you can throw down with them.
Yeah, okay. Cool, because I'm like working on my accents and stuff at the moment because obviously you would know having accents definitely broadens your horizons.
Oh yeah, it does.
But I'm sort of like being my own agent at the moment. Like I'm on this website where you like they list voice acting stuff and you sort of just send off your auditions, all that sort of thing.
That's fantastic. That's the way to go. Okay. And then what I would do is I would start to connect with the community, find out where
Yeah,
the
right.
people in Sid are who are working all the time, get there. And when you find someone you click with, say, and it evolves naturally, see if they'll be your mentor. Now, alternatively, you can hire, there's a lot of really good voice actors like Richard Horvitz teaches as well. He's wonderful. And they will listen to your reel and tell you exactly where you fall short and what you need to work on.
Okay, yeah, that would actually be really good.
Yeah, because my number one recommendation for people is do not go to the show until you're ready for the show, because as cliched as it is, you get one chance to make a first impression. And you want to come
exactly
in
right.
top notch. So work with those guys. So spend some of your money on that,
Yeah, I would definitely be happy to target even a fair chunk of my money on that sort of thing, because that's definitely like my passion.
Yeah, and you want to beef up your savings at the same time so that when you get to LA, you can afford to work for free in order to create relationships, because you've saved enough money to live off of before you got here.
And I've done a few jobs like voice acting here for free so far, like
great.
couple of things, and I literally don't mind. Like, it's for the experience, and it's all good. So
that's how you start. And let me tell you, I think people have the, I know I did. I had the concept that I was going to become really good and successful and work with the people who were the top people at the time. And that's not actually entirely how it happened. Like Dave Hayter and I met back in 1995. Oh my gosh, working on Spider-Man. He was Captain America and I was the Black Cat. And we just hit it off because he's just one of the finest human beings around. And we just, you just get on with people. I was like, oh, he's my people. And
I actually remember that watching that. Actually, I've seen that one.
yeah. But I think my point is that you're going to find people who haven't quote unquote broken through yet, and they're going to become your tribe, and you will all rise together. And that's really how it actually often works. Yes, you'll break in and work with, the people you looked up to, et cetera. But most of who you're going to work with is going to be your tribe. So get out there and start finding them and start making it happen that way. And in terms of finances, the number one formula for those of you who are taking notes about this is you calculate what it's going to cost you to live. First of all, nail down what it's going to cost you just to survive. You're like food, water, shelter, and gas, fuel, and then factor in maybe a little clothing and maybe a coffee and maybe a night out, and that's your super survival. Like, let's say in LA, that's going to be, $2,000 a month minimum, I would say, and so for 18 months, you're going to need 36 grand to come here. Maybe more.
Exactly right.
I mean, when I came out, I literally had an allowance for myself of $1,250 a month. I lived in some tiny places and ate some really boring, like repetitive stuff. And I documented every single penny I spent, and I stretched that money as far as I could. And I just made it, and there were times when I didn't. I took, oh my God, I took some crazy, crazy jobs to make ends meet. But I had the time and the ability to I also, when I was poor as heck, would spend $400 on a 6-week class because I got to do my dog and pony show in front of directors and I was ready.
Yeah, right.
And so that was the formula that worked for me. Everybody's different. That's why I recommend listening to, podcasts with interviews with voice actors, listen to any kind of interviews with people who do what you want to do, because everyone's approach is different. There are a couple things that I recommend.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Go get yourself some classical singing training, like opera, or Broadway belt, not because you want to be a singer, but because you need a really strong voice. You need to be able to hold up for 4 hours straight of talking, talking to a buddy in a bar,
Yeah.
Like that really loud thing where your voice is fried the next day. You can't be fried the next day. You have to be strong. I have
got to keep on talking. Yeah,
and you have to stay in shape. There's a couple singers whose range is just a little too high for me, and I keep them in my car. And when I'm driving from place to place, I'll knock out at least 3 or 4 of their songs just to work my voice out. And that's my workout every day. So I stay strong.
Yeah,
and it's the singing keeps it strong.
Yeah, especially if you're doing like voices and things. Like if you're putting on a voice, that's obviously very hard to keep up for hours on end. Yeah,
one of the windows into quote unquote funny voices for me was I started singing in clubs and cover bands when I was 15, and I liked to sound like the people that I was copying. So I used to practice sounding like different singers, and I think that helped me ultimately. So the singing lessons are important. Acting lessons, like in Sid, you're going to have access
I've
to
done a
some
few acting
wonderful.
experiences. Is
Don't
what got
stop.
me into all this in the first place. Yeah, right.
Take some good quality classes with people who scare the crap out of you. People who you're like, oh my
Yeah,
God,
right.
I feel so horrible next to these people. You want to always be playing ball with people better than you, because that's how you get
Because there's
better.
no point if you're comfortable and just doing what
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then another piece of it is what
And
you're doing now, which is get to know business. It is a business, and you need to diversify. And I will tell you, you're going to be in fashion, and then you're going to be out of fashion. When I first moved out to LA, I killed it in animation straight out of the gate, and I was never even allowed to watch cartoons. I was
Yeah,
like,
right.
okay, here I am. I'm going to figure this out. But I knew, because I know how this business is, I knew that I would be super in fashion, and then boom, I would be way less in fashion. And then I'd be in fashion and
Yeah,
then out.
right.
So when animation died off, boom, I had while animation was rocking, I was investing heavily in my commercial stuff. And then that took
Yeah,
over.
right.
And then I knew that was going to burn out. So I was saying yes to every game that came down the pike, just because I wanted to save up and buy a real estate.
Yeah,
So,
fair enough.
and I was also really enjoying it. So
May I
diversify
ask where you
yourself.
got accent lessons from? Because you've done like English accents and things.
Yeah, I always think in a British accent in my head, and sometimes I dream in French, and I took French as a kid. Um, and then I just also I have some wonderful coaches. If there's a good coach, I'm calling him. I'm totally calling
Yeah,
him.
right.
JB Blanc was, I worked with him not too long ago. He's a wonderful director, actor, coach. Fantastic stories, highly entertaining. And there's all kinds of incredible coaches out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
like,
always
since I'm
coach.
Australian, British is not too far from where my voice is naturally, so I can do British pretty well. But yeah, American's definitely a bit of a tough one for
one of the
us down
greatest
under.
one of the greatest systems I ever bumped into for creating diverse range of voices was Pat Fraley. Fraley.
Okay.
He's genius
Yeah.
at separating out the actual mechanics of the voice to create
Yeah,
different
right.
sounds. He's so wonderful, and he's just a really lovely man.
Right.
So I recommend that highly. So mind your business, save your money, take nothing personally, and you're in those rooms to solve problems, not to have people take care of you. You're in there to bring a creative vision to life, and it's not about you, it's about the project. So
cool.
Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Excellent. It definitely answers my question. Thank you. So sorry for went off topic a little bit there, but
oh no,
I really
listen, that's
appreciate
what we do. We surf topics. We totally surf topics. That's what we're here for. It's a tangential existence.
I just want to say before you go, I just wanted to thank you for being a huge inspiration to me in my voice acting. You're actually really amazing. It's a huge honor to be talking to you right now. So I just wanted you to know.
Thank you so much. That's absolutely lovely. Thank you.
Well, I just really appreciate your call.
Best to you, Matthew. You as well. And have fun out there. Go do good things.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thanks.
I love talking to you guys. You're so awesome. So there you go. There's a whole bunch of stuff I threw out tonight. It's a pretty dense episode. But yeah, the thing about money is it's not about the stuff. It's about the possibilities that it opens up, and it's about who you become as you go through the process of learning how to earn that money and how to grow that money. I once had someone say, if you've got like a 2-gallon container, and you've got a 2-gallon life, and you want a 5-gallon life, you can't just cram 5 gallons worth of stuff into that 2-gallon container. You got to break apart the container, and it's going to come to pieces. And it's not easy. It's not fun. And you reassemble as a 5-gallon, and life is awesome again. And life's kind of that. We just go and we level up, and we're the next thing, and remember that you're awesome, and connect to each other. I challenge everybody this week to please, or this month, connect with people who you think are your absolute opposites, people who voted very differently from you, people who operate very differently from you. Find what you have in common, because that's what's going to make this world amazing. Go out there and find that, and go do good things. Yeah, and have a great time. And I'm grateful for all of you.